Okay, so we are here to talk about we are beginning our journey to Scream 6. We got it locked on, and we're like, let's do that. Let's get ready for Screevy. The only way fake nerds know how to do it, which is watching every entry of a franchise before the new one shows up.
That I've never seen before.
So we're talking today. This time we did not decide to do it as one thing. As I mentioned up top, we are doing it as separate things. So next week we will talk about 3 and 4. But today we're talking about 1 and 2.
Scream and Scream 2, which came out 1 year apart, 1996 and 1997. I'm super excited. We're going to try and stay focused on just one at a time if we can. So we're going to just talk about Scream first. First of all, I fucking love these movies. So you're going to get a lot of completely biased opinions from me. Ben, how'd you feel?
Oh, well, this is my first time interacting with the Scream movies outside of a Halloween store. Because, you always see those, like the Ghostface masks and Halloween. The only other thing I knew about Scream was from the Scary Movie franchise, where they would do the waza. Like we were talking about that when we were watching the movies last night. Out of these two, I highly enjoyed these. I get they are horror movies, but they weren't like horror as in I'm actually terrified for the person on screen. I mean, I am, but more so like I want to see how they get out of this. It was really cool to watch how Ghostface or the people playing Ghostface would be there 1 second, you turn around, and then you turn back and they're gone. It's like, oh, there were so many oh shit moments in both films that kept me on my toes and also kept me guessing and kept me thinking, who's the killer? How does it? It's like, who has the motive? Who has what? It's like, and then when the twists come up at the end, I'm generalizing for both of them. We'll get down into the nitty-gritty details later, but when they come up with the twists, I was like, really? Oh my gosh! And then it's like, oh man, it all makes sense now. How did I didn't see it before? So I highly liked it. I had a good time with these movies. They were very fun.
So Ben, real quickly, just to bounce off of what you said, they operate a lot like murder mysteries, which is what I think is so successful about them. I love a good murder mystery. I think murder mysteries rule when they're rewatchable, especially. Like watching, I think this honestly might only be the second or third time I've seen the first film. I know the first time I ever watched it was with Sparks, but I'm not sure when I would have seen it otherwise. And man, that was years ago. Sparks, that was ages and ages ago. But when the spoilers for all of these movies, when the phone dropped out of Billy's hand, I was like, oh, I forgot how obvious they make it that Billy is the killer, and then completely throw you off the scent.
Yeah.
I have always enjoyed the Scream movies, but it has been a while since I watched them. Scream 1, I think, might be a masterpiece. Scream 2 is excellent. It's really good. But I think that first one, my God, there are very few people who can ride the line of horror comedy camp like Wes Craven. And specifically in Scream, it is such an incredible line of like, I'm afraid for this person to die, and then 1 second later I'm laughing at something they said because it's really funny. And it's able to be like, it is the best like tightrope of this genre. The characters are great. The mystery is fantastic. It's like a bunch of characters are like in a bunch of different movies, and then Neve Campbell is like, it's like I'm in this movie, in the real movie, and then everyone else is like really goofy. And it's just really fun. I think it's just fantastic. I'm glad that the Scream franchise has continued. I am sad Wes Craven is no longer here, but man, I forgot how good this first movie was. I forgot how early it came out too. I was thinking like, oh yeah, Scream came out in like 2000. And I'm like, no, it's 96. Like, damn, that's early. Great movie.
Yeah. I think Scream does an incredible job of taking the piss out of the slasher genre at that point in time and shaking up what horror was doing. Mag brought it up really well. I think great start to Some of the Stars in analyzing the horror subgenre of the slasher movies and villains.
Very meta.
It does. Yeah. Being meta really works for it. I think you're right. Like it has such a deft hand at handling its humor and its scares.
Doing
them at both times and from moment to moment, like deciding to linger on bits like when Dewey goes to the phone after Sid's gotten the call while Billy's in prison, and she gets freaked out and she walks away, and he walks up with the gun and he's like, hello.
This is a very, very funny movie while also being like a really good slasher movie.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, you're right. Like it walks that line because like there's the Freddy Krueger cameo. Like if you know that's incredibly hilarious when you're just like, who's there? It's like, "Ruh." Sorry,
Not
Fred.
you, Fred.
Not you, Fred.
I forgot Henry Winkler was in this movie.
Yeah, a lot of people do if
The
they
wink.
don't see it for a while, and then it's like, oh yeah, and he's this absolutely unhinged.
Oh my god,
principal.
he's unhinged and he's like really perverted, but then like he does something really perverted, and then like the next scene he's on the the school announcement.
Remember, your principal
loves you, and I'm like, what is going on with this man? It's like so many like weird different movies are happening at the same time that Dev Campbell's just trying to live her life, and it's like I can't talk about the tone enough. How it's a beautiful crescendo of so many different feelings at once.
And it's easy today, I think, especially for Ben, because he's the newest to it, to take for granted how violently jarring the opening is for the time that it came out.
Yeah, Drew Barrymore specifically was cast, and people did not know she wasn't the star of the movie. They casted one of the biggest stars in the world at the time to be killed in the first 10 minutes as a joke. They did the same thing for the second one,
And
with
like
Jada Pinkett Smith.
brutally. Like the way that you get the shot of her entrails when she's hanging from the tree is very like in the 90s, in 96, like that really shook audiences up to see that.
And it's like it's horrifying, like with the parents and like the music, and like they start screaming, and then it does like the weird like the thing that it does, and I'm like, it's an interesting choice. I don't know if I love that, but
You brought the music up. I really like how oppressive the soundtrack is in this movie. In this movie specifically, I can't really recall the soundtracks for 3, 4, and 5. I do obviously watch 2, so like I recognize that one. But like in this film specifically, like the there's like heavy gothic oppressive sound permeates the movie through its soundtrack, and I think that's really interesting choice for something that is oftentimes very funny. Like Ghostface, it gets beat up more than any other slasher ever in any history, in any franchise, and it's funny oftentimes, and so like, and to have this like really just like again oppressive soundtrack is a really interesting choice, and it's a great soundtrack to boot.
Yeah,
I agree. It keeps it very melancholic, especially around Sid, especially as you are slowly getting the pieces of exposition about what happened to her mom, which I think is doled out very well
perfectly
through the film.
Yeah.
You're not fed it all too much at once. You get it in small chunks, and I think that's really good.
the stuff of Cotton, love it. The
small appearance of Cotton.
Yeah.
In the first one, he's only on the news screen for a moment
5
with
seconds.
an unspeaking role, but it's still Liev Schreiber.
Yeah. They knew just in case.
Well, they
cannot tell you
apparently
how many. No, I was gonna say I cannot tell you how many times I'm watching both this movie and Scream 2 where I'm like, wait, this famous person that I know decently well is in this movie? What?
Cotton, interestingly enough, I believe Liev Schreiber was cast specifically because so Kevin Williamson apparently said that he had the idea for Scream 2 while he was writing Scream 1. So it was, I think, always intended to be 2 movies. Because this, as Sparks mentioned, the film actually came out less than a year after the first film. And so they turned that one around real quick. And so I think probably Liev Schreiber was the like, let's get someone for this part so we can have him in the second one.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah.
I'm sure that like that initially probably might have even been someone else or not been there quite as they see it, and then they knew they were casting Schreiber and so put him into this moment. Yeah, it really worked out. Scream, what an incredible film. There's so many things that you can say. I think one of the main things is that I think a lot of people can give both Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard a bit of a hard time for their acting performances in this film.
I know your mom did.
My mom does not like Skeet Ulrich's acting in this movie.
Not at all.
And that it's very over the top. And I'm like, they are both consistent at knowing they're the killers the entire movie. Once you know they're the killers and you go back and watch it, every single interaction is dripping with them.
Every single
They
one.
are playing two characters who have a secret, who know and one of them is really excited about the secret, and the other is like, you need to freaking calm down.
The first fountain scene, like when they're all hanging together, and like and Billy and Stu are talking, and like in that, because I've seen it before, I'm like, oh my god, it's so obvious. If once you know. And the body language and the way Billy keeps trying to tell Stu to shut up and settle down.
Because Stu is so giddy about them doing this.
Yeah.
So just being on the internet, you come across screenshots of movies that you've never seen before, obviously. And one of them, of course, was the scene with Matthew Lillard at the end where he's like holding the gun. He's like doing like the hee face. And when I see him in this movie, I'm like, I put two and two together. So I knew that Matthew Lillard was a killer. But then the more I watched it, I was like, but is he though? I never knew that Billy was the killer, because like the more I see Matthew Lillard, the more I see him talking. I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely a killer. But that doesn't mean there isn't only one. Like when Billy shows up and you think Billy's the killer, like when the cell phone drops off and saying, I thought, oh, is it him? Is he a killer too? Or is he the killer? And then Matthew Lillard just picks up, or they just like swap off and off. Turns out, yes, they both are. But what I have to say is I actually really enjoy Matthew Lillard's performance. I know he is over the top, but I feel like that's his character. But also it's like, I know I kind of met people like that throughout my life. But then looking over at Billy, the more I think about it, it's like, yeah, it makes sense that he would be telling him, like, hey, calm down, don't talk like this. But it makes sense that Matthew Lillard was the killer of the entire film.
I think people will say that, like, you know, Skeet Ulrich in particular is not doing a great job in acting certain scenes earlier in the film. And I would argue that I think he's so consistent because who he is at the end of the movie is who he is throughout the whole movie. He's just only letting parts of it out. And I think it's very selective. And I think it's very much there to like throw Sydney off and lure her into his trap of thinking that he is the killer, just so that he can try and prove he's not the killer by creating an alibi. I think he makes all those moves very selectively. This is written in the script, but I think Skeet Ulrich is still the character he is when he reveals how unhinged and insane he is. And he's that throughout the whole movie. He's just that in different doses. And I think that's why the performance is so good, is because he is truly that character consistently throughout the film. It is kind of like, it's very obvious that it's there, but they give you just the right amount in the script to kind of trick you into thinking that Billy might just not be it. Also, what a revelation it was that there was not one killer, but two.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up because one of the things that I like about the Scream franchise as a whole is that it's actually not afraid to be predictable, but it's also adds the second killer angle to the first film to say, yeah, it was who you think, but also it was this. So it adds that layer of unpredictability to a predictable setting, because there's billions of slasher movies. Like, someone's gonna figure this out, but because there's billions of slasher films, we're not going to figure out the second killer. We're not looking for him.
And this being like a meta deconstruction of what a slasher movie is. Like, I mean, you literally have Randy saying, like, here's all the rules of the movie we're currently in, what we can't do. Like, we have Sydney going like, why don't you just run out the front door instead of go up the stairs? That's so stupid, or whatever, right? And then that exact thing happens to her because her front door got locked and she can't get out in time, so she has to run up the stairs. And I'm like, they know what movie they're making. They want to make a quote unquote traditional slasher movie. They can also make fun of the genre at the same time.
Right.
You can make a great version of a movie while also making fun of the trappings of it, which is the entirety of what Scream is about.
And sorry, real quick. I appreciate like what you were saying, Brandon, because like it like a murder mystery movie, the clues are there in the sense that like these characters are so consistently the killers throughout the whole film. Like, you can really see it in every moment with them prior to once one of the standouts for me that I didn't catch until like the sixth or something time I saw Scream, it was some amount of times into seeing it, is that Stu. And it's funny because they throw you off entirely from it happening, but Stu tells Tatum to go get him a beer.
Yeah.
Then Immediately after he says that, she's like, "You go get a beer," and then Gail comes in, and they have the whole interaction with her and Dewey about Gail coming into the party and everything, and that happens. Then Tatum goes to the garage. You almost entirely forget that Stu told her to go do it, and he set her up to get killed.
Yeah.
It's there, but it's just not too obvious.
Also, who puts a cat door on a garage door?
Someone who wants a death scene where a girl is pulled up by a garage door until she's smushed.
I'm just saying, I don't think that house exists unless it's in this specific movie, and that's really funny.
There are some really gnarly kills in this movie.
Sure.
Like I really like the fact that, like, I think Wes Craven, I think Sparks is probably right about this film as a masterpiece. I think Wes Craven felt really free to do this movie. He was he did a we've talked the praises to death of Freddy's New Nightmare, or Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Excellent movie. Definitely what he was playing with, what we get to see in Scream. He's knocking at that door in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Absolutely. And then he goes further with it in Scream. Like, he was primed for this movie. He wanted this movie, and he puts so much of himself and what he personally thinks into this movie, and it works because of that.
And full credit to Kevin Williamson, who also, works on making these films with Wes Craven. He's the other half of the coin that makes these films work. I don't want to outshine that. Like, Wes Craven has the overall umbrella on screen for sure, but Kevin Williamson is instrumental to why these films have worked. Why Sidney and the others are such compelling characters who you want to keep revisiting. Nev Campbell gives a really great performance. I don't mean that ironically. I mean that sincerely. I think that one of the smartest interactions and moments for her acting in the film is this bit where she's in the bathroom and the other girls are talking about her mom, and they are ludicrous, like
laying
absolutely
into her.
Insanely up energy. Like, it's not a bad scene, but it is like very, very like, holy shit, we are just going for the meanness and cruelty of what these girls are saying. But she is hiding in a stall, and it's just a close shot on her, subtle acting to what they are saying about her mom and what that means about her. And I think she's so good at being this person who has so many things thought about her already. Sidney, even before Ghostface comes along, is living a life where everyone already has these expectations and judgments about what kind of person she is and who she is, and constantly wanting to put her in the place of being a victim. She is predetermined a victim because of her mom being killed, and that's pretty much it. And one could even argue before that because of people talking about her mom being a slut. Yeah. So like, she's been in this position forever. And I think that it's really, really good that this again being a sea change, that she is this person who is given the strength and will to want to actively fight Ghostface.
She's a fighter.
Yeah.
The costume, so simple, so wonderful, so iconic, because it is in the narrative of the film a widely released Halloween costume that anybody can pick up anywhere. Father Death, that's the one. And like that's, I mean, and now we have that as Ghostface, but like the idea of like throwing you off the scent of like who the killer could be, because like it's the Spider-Man thing. It can be anyone. Like, there's only one person who can be Michael Myers, and there's only one person who can be Jason Voorhees. There's anybody can put on that mask and be Ghostface.
Yeah, sure. He's horror Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's the Spider-Man.
Horror Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility.
Dewey, I forgot how incredible David Arquette is as Dewey.
Yeah.
The big little cop who could, he's 25 years old, but he's 14.
I was 24 for a whole year.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite line. Like, Gail's demographics like 11 to 24, and he's like, I'm 25. But I was 24 a whole year.
The other thing that's really funny about it is because it's Gail trying to take advantage of what she perceives as a dumb cop.
Yeah.
And like having the opportunity, and also being immediately charmed by him the way she just wasn't ready for.
Cannot help it.
I was immediately waiting, like, after every interaction that Gail had with Dewey in the very beginning, I was thinking, okay, she's just pulling on the charm, batting her eyes at this cop who is a little bit, he's a bit of an idiot. You love him, but he's kind of stupid. And then, like, when she's like, no, I actually care about this guy, I'm like, Really? Huh.
Because I think like Gail, especially at this time in her life, she's like pond scum. She's awful. So the fact that she keeps someone who is so like unbelievably real and just like, you're so innocent. Oh my God. She's like endeared to him. Like they are polar opposite people and an opposite tract. And then over the course of the show, like they balance each other out, but while still being Gail's still a bitch in the next movies, right? You know, like that doesn't change.
Actually,
but her heart goes softer.
I want to talk about that once we get to the next movie because I actually really like what they did in the second one. Because I was thinking that once we go from Scream 1 to Scream 2, I was thinking the complete opposite was going to happen.
We'll get into that in just a moment.
Yeah.
I think what's so great about Dewey is that there's a moment where the movie wants you to think maybe he's the killer, and then it's like, nah.
Not Dewey.
It's not Dewey. And I think that's really funny because there's when she opens the door and he's got the mask, and like you're like, oh, is it Dewey? And then it's like, nah, it's not Dewey. And I think he's such a David Arquette is such a great role in this movie because there's a sense of innocence to Dewey in a way that none of the other characters have. He just wants to. He's young. He's learning. Ben called him an idiot. That's not true. He's inexperienced. I think David Arquette walks that line brilliantly. Of everyone thinks he's an idiot, but he's not. He's just an experience, and he's learning. And he learns throughout the movie, and he continually learns throughout the franchise.
And honestly, like the truth be told of the Scream franchise, why do Gail and Dewey have such good chemistry? It's because they got together in real life. Yeah. Like the chemistry was real for them, and so that's also part of what adds to those two just like having the charm and working off each other. It makes you endeared to that relationship at the core of this franchise, which is really cute.
Yeah.
Lot
of murder. Obviously, when Dewey he stumbles out of the house and you see the knife in his back, and I knew he'd survive, but I'm like, no, I'm not doing.
Yeah,
thank God he survived.
Yeah.
Dewey twice. He gets stabbed in the same place in the second movie.
Oh my God, the scar tissue saved him. Brilliant. Love it.
I'm gonna go through a couple of notes here.
Bring them out.
Ryan noticed it for the first time, I think, that in the opening there is a slow guitar of "Don't Fear the Reaper."
Yeah.
For Billy's first scene with
Sydney.
Yeah,
when Billy climbs into her room, like a really like what the I'm blanking on the word.
Acoustic.
Acoustic. Thank you. I had a brain fart. Acoustic version of "Don't Fear the Reaper," and I'm like, wow, this is incredibly sinister now that I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God, brilliant choice. The music, especially the pop music choices, are really good in both of these two movies.
But it's no mistake that like the first major needle drop moment you get is this "Don't Fear the Reaper" cover, because this movie is paying homage directly to Halloween 1978. It is a major milestone inspiration for how Scream comes about, the movie that it is not necessarily making fun of, but picking apart in terms of modern sensibilities for the genre at the time. And I think that's really, really good. Obviously, that comes full circle in the end because Halloween, the original, is featured prominently for the third act.
Yes,
to the point where I think this is so cool. It's not jumping around. The movie is accurately running in real time of when the events are supposed to be happening. So you're getting these sound effects that are being timed for the things that are happening in the film. So it's almost working as the film's new score. But they haven't altered where the film is running in time. They're letting things play out.
That's what I noticed this time around, because it's so interesting. There's a moment where like Ghostface is stalking and we hear dun and it's the Halloween soundtrack playing as the soundtrack of the movie, but it's not. It's on this TV. I think that's so cool. I looked at it, I was like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, there's a scene where, because I was like, what's going on? And it's when Jamie Lee Curtis is in the closet and she's getting attacked by Michael.
And I'm hearing the sounds.
And you're hearing the sounds, and I'm like, man, this is really clever. It's very clever.
Yeah. I think the interweaving and like it's both paying tribute but like taking from and functionally using parts of Halloween 1978 as its own music background, I think is so smart.
Yeah.
Mag brought up the opening with Drew Barrymore being iconic. Yes, absolutely. We did touch on it a little.
The
earlier.
voice, the Ghostface voice.
Oh yeah.
I like iconic with capital I.
Yeah.
Like I think that is like I want to buy one of those things. I'm sure they exist now. Whatever the guy who does that voice, he's set for life. He's so good.
I could have swore that was Steve Bloom when I first heard it.
Definitely. Nah, no Bloom.
You know what? I actually, I get it. There's a Steve Bloominess to that voice.
Oh, he's got the rasp. Oh yeah.
But what the thing that I think that Scream does so well is that everyman kind of horror of like this could literally be anyone, and like watching the movie back after seeing it for the first time, it's pretty obvious that Billy's the killer, but it literally could have been anyone in that cast outside of Neve Campbell. Like it could have been Dewey, it could have been Randy, it could have been the dad. Like there is no reason, and like it's because it's not their actual voice, and it's covered from head to toe.
Roger Jackson is the name of the voice actor who plays the voice of Ghostface in the entire Scream franchise.
Great voice.
Except for Scream season 1.
Yeah, okay, I just meant the movies.
Yeah.
Yes, except for Scream season 1 and 2.
I should watch this. There's 2 seasons. There's 2 seasons of that show.
There are 3 seasons of Scream.
I might try to watch those before Screevy comes out.
Yeah, I guess, sure.
Maybe the last 2 seasons?
Huh?
The last 2 seasons you said were pretty good.
No, that's inaccurate. I said the last season was terrible. The first season was pretty good, and the second season was also pretty good until it got to the reveal of the killer, which made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Well, is it streaming anywhere? Maybe. We'll see.
It's on Netflix. Let's see. We talked about that. I love also going back to the bathroom scene. I also love that it is never made clear if that was even Stu or Billy, because it probably wasn't. It was probably a kid messing around, being in the Ghostface costume.
Yeah,
like we never find out one way or another, and it's one of the reasons why Sid's not even going to bother trying to tell an adult or a teacher right there. She's just going to run because for all she knows that kids are running around in the outfits and everything. She's already seen it, and she just got in egg on her face for fingering Billy at being wrong.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that detail is there because like there's no reason for us to believe that was Billy or Stu.
Those big boots.
Mag has a comment that's confusing me. Real quickly, Ben, if you want to pull that up. Not even a Blumhouse reference. I don't believe Blumhouse was around when this movie was released.
Joking.
Okay.
Blumhouse now helps make those, right?
I think so. I think they made Scream 5 and 6.
Yeah, I think he's joking.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on
I'm looking at
one cream?
One cream?
One cream?
Tatum is to this point, I'm pretty sure, but we're going to go through the movie, so I'll remember one way or another, but I'm pretty sure she's the only person who refers to the killer as Ghostface. I don't think that anyone else ever in the films refers to the outfit as Ghostface. They just call it the killer. We, as fans, call them Ghostface, but that moniker comes from Tatum.
Oh, real quickly, sorry. Blumhouse does not produce Scream 5 and 6 because they're produced by Paramount, not Universal.
I didn't. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Paramount.
Randy's iconic.
Real quickly. I'm so sorry, Sparks.
No, go ahead.
Paramount.
Randy's iconic monologue about the rules.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
That's an incredible scene.
That
scene lives in infamy.
I forgot how intricate actually like the whole plot of the mom being killed by Billy and Stu because Billy's dad was having an affair with Nev's mom, Sydney's mom, which made his mom get abandon him. Which stuff that happens in Scream 2 is crazy. Right. I love how just like stupid and like nonsensical. I love it.
Also, a super important point to touch on is the very clear subtextual homoeroticism between Randy and sorry, not Randy and between Stu and
they
Billy.
even say that in the second movie.
Yeah, it's very much there.
Billy is
definitely did it at least once.
Billy is very angry about it, and Stu is not.
Right. You definitely get the feeling like Stu's bisexual hardcore.
Oh yeah.
And Billy, well, we don't know. Maybe he just needed Stu.
He's horny for murder.
Yeah. But it's definitely there. Like you see it more than once, the way that Stu will put himself around the backs of other guys. He does it to Randy in the video store.
Yeah,
and he does it most prominently to Billy in the reveal scene. And he gets right up behind them. Song Red Right Hand, one of Craven's favorites, associated with the franchise from here on.
Yeah, used multiple times in the second movie. Oh yeah.
I think that's really great. I love Randy's scene in the video store. Especially
oh my god,
where
he's so loud.
There's always a good reason to kill your girlfriend, and then like there's a woman standing behind him who just like looks up and she's like,
he does a no face and runs out
and leaves.
Really good, really good.
Super good.
I forgot how. Script's so good. Script is.
I remember what I was going to say. I've been trying to figure it out for a while. There's a prevalent conversation going on for most of our lives about how media influences violence. And many people were saying, no, it doesn't. And so like Wes Craven has it in this movie. Yes, these are film fans who are also psychotic, but the films were not the reason why they're psychotic. Because they have that whole line. It's like, no, movies don't create serial killers. Movies make serial killers more clever.
More creative.
More creative.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get to the second movie, which is really funny.
It is its own idea of how media and violence kind of interweave themselves. Especially, I think Scream 2 has a lot more that it wants to chew on about that concept than this one.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, like when you are making a meta-textual comment on horror films as a whole, it's going to come up like how that relates to the killers themselves being affected by it and wanting to do this. Especially Stu's like terminology of saying like you got to have the sequel, all that kind of stuff. It's a good plan. It's a good reveal of all the pieces of what they were doing, and they're foiled by being human. It's one of my favorite things about Ghostface. It's why I love watching these films, is that he's so fallible. Ghostface as a killer can be tripped up, can be knocked out, can be beaten up. I really love it.
It happens all the time.
I think it makes it more tense because it feels more like it can happen.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that aspect of it.
Scream 2?
Hold on. Sorry, I had just a little bit more. Oh, the reliance that Billy and Stu have, the absolute certainty they have that the rest of the guys from the high school who are still left at the party are going to be so callous about hearing the principal was strung up on the goalposts that they're going to leave the party. They were like, when we need everyone to clear out, that's when the phone call will come through, letting them know that the principal was strung up on the goalpost. What timing.
I love that like 5 drunk teenagers are going to like, yeah, let's go drive to a crime scene while we're under the age intoxicated.
Yeah.
Sounds smart to me.
Right. But they want to see him. It's sick and gross.
My final the Randy scene where he dies, but it's 30 seconds behind on the cameraman's box. So like, they're like, kid, get out of there, get out of the way. Oh wait, it's on 30 second delay.
You want to talk about the Jamie, turn around.
Oh my god, that is so funny.
Jamie.
So this actor's name is Jamie Kennedy. So he's talking about himself in the movie where he's about to die. While watching Jamie Lee Curtis. Incredible. Wes Craven, you beautiful man.
You rest in peace, sir.
The drunk driving teens leads to one of my favorite lines in the film, which is Gail pointing over and saying, "Is that what you've been looking for?" And Dewey staring at her saying, "My whole life." which is the most young Anakin energy.
Oh my god, you're right
for this ever.
You are so right.
My whole life.
Oh my god, he's gonna feed her like a space pear next.
Are you an angel? Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think the cast is great. The performances are great. The score is great.
Yeah.
The cinematography is awesome. The editing is pretty sharp. There's a couple of things that I don't think have aged so well in our very 90s, but overall it's still just like, even as a product of its time, as Mag brought up, like being limited by the technology they had at the time, like having to use the computer to try and call 911 when the landline wasn't working.
I love it.
What a great little film. I love it so much. Ben, what would you rate it?
Probably an 8.5 or a 9.
Yeah. Pick one. I'm just kidding. I would give it a 10. I think this movie is like almost flawless.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think now that I've watched this 1 and 2, and I've most recently seen 5, I think the first one is probably going to be ended up being my favorite. Maybe Scream 6 if that movie is as cool as it is and is inventive and being like a new city. But Scream 1,
the original.
It's perfect. It's just like it's almost perfect. I think it's incredible.
Do we all rate it? Let's see.
Yeah, we all rate it.
No, only 3 of us.
I think I'm leaning toward a 9.
Oh yeah, baby.
I think I like it. I think I live in a 9 area.
That's even higher than you put on Letterboxd this week, so that's awesome.
I changed it. I don't know if you saw. I changed it.
Hey, I love it.
Well, I made it. I made a 4.5 star.
Yeah, that's a 9.
Yeah, it's a 9.
I love it. It's a 10. I wondered if like on this another viewing, would I reassess and take it down? And I am saying, nay, sir, man. It is a 10.
It's a classic. This is a classic.
You can't stop it. All right, let's go to Scream 2.
Scream.
Just Scream 2. They didn't do weird stuff for this one.
Let me imagine. So Jada Pinkett Smith is the star of this movie, just like Drew Barrymore was the star of the first movie.
Her and Omar Epps.
Yeah, they are. Jada Pinkett Smith is on like the box art of like the DVD thing, like when you turn it on, and I'm like, she's in this movie.
The most insane movie theater audience ever.
We've seen Endgame
so
together.
On the line of I don't even really want to see this movie. I just want to stand in a room with a mask and a fake knife and scream.
See, here's the thing, like those types of theater experiences happen for like Rocky Horror Picture Show or like The Room. It's not for opening night of a movie.
Yeah.
Because like I can't hear what the movie's saying.
Right.
It's a preview screening. It's a preview screening for a movie that is the first in a franchise.
That is based on a true story of murders.
And so like to have that packed of a theater with everyone just like, yeah, I'm going to run around and stab people with my fake knife is wild.
The hype was too real. Man, the stab universe, the Scream universe.
People show up in a passionate fervor for Heather Graham, Tori Spelling, and Luke Wilson, let me tell you.
Oh my God, Luke Wilson.
Did you know that Robert Rodriguez filmed those?
Huh?
Robert Rodriguez filmed those scenes.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
Incredible.
It's so good. Man,
Scream 2. I don't think it's as good as Scream, but boy howdy, it is a great movie. It is almost a perfect sequel. I don't have a lot of issues with it either. It's just not as tight because it's a sequel trying to do bigger and bigger things. It's more chaotic, and I love it for it. I love who our villains are for this movie. I love them.
I honestly, I go back and forth every time I watch it. I'm like, is Scream 2 my favorite? Is it Scream? Is it Scream 2?
The thing is, it's trying to say I like because it's just trying to do more than the first movie. So like I like what it's trying to say and how funny it is, and it continues to be really funny. And Timothy Olyphant, funnier, and Timothy Olyphant is so good.
Dewey evolves completely into a Twin Peaks character.
Dude, he gets his own
living
theme
in the
song
Scream universe.
with like he's so Dale Cooper in this movie, like young Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks. The stuff with him and Gale, I love. Again, like the soundtrack is like amped up, so there's like more pop and stuff. Everything is kind of ramped up a little bit because that's what a sequel does.
After 5. And what 5 does with Dewey, which I won't spoil for Ben. I was thinking like, has Dewey just always been my favorite character? Mm-hmm. And then watching Scream 1 and 2 back to back, I was like, oh shit, Dewey has always been my favorite character.
He's great.
Dewey's great.
Yeah.
I really like watching him evolve. Again, going back to like what the thing of like he's an experience. He's learned from that thing of like, and that's the thing about watching what Scream is so unique. What makes Scream so unique is that it has had most of the same core cast since the first film, and we've seen them grow and we've seen them evolve. And every movie doesn't revert their characters back; that evolves their characters in new ways. Gale's arc in this film, at first glance, is a repeat of her arc in the first film, but then you realize that she reverted back to that person, and then when she puts down that wall, the character development picks up from where it was in the first film, and she progresses even further.
Once we get introduced to Debbie Salt, and then that's the Gale of this movie.
Yeah,
Gale's like, oh, this is what I'm like. This is what I am to other people. This sucks. And Gale starts to become a better person because she realizes, oh wow, maybe this isn't the way I'm supposed to do things.
That and being reunited with Dewey.
Yeah, her true love.
Ben, give me some overall takes on Scream 2, how you felt.
Also, really enjoyed it. What I really like about Scream 2 is that it definitely takes the lessons learned from the first film and applies them, but then they have to create more things to get around it. Like Sydney, obviously, she gets a bunch of phone calls from people asking who what her favorite scary movie is. She has a little phone ID thing. She's still she's not very trustworthy. She still keeps people at arm's length, like her boyfriend, who, when all the murders start happening, she keeps him away, and he's like, I'm going to be there to support you, but at the same time, you need space. Like when he says, and I'm supposed to be understanding, she's like, yeah. He's like, okay, I will be. And he just doesn't cause a fight, doesn't cause a scene. I mean,
that's a good boyfriend.
That is a very good boyfriend. And also one of the things I really like is how they handle Gail and Dewey, because when you see Gail for the first time, she's like, okay, she's famous. She has a bunch of money now because of her book. The film is hitting up. She's kind of bitchy. But then when Dewey comes in on the scene and he sees Gail, I'm thinking, oh no, did she dump him? And he's just like a stray little puppy dog. In fact, it was kind of the reverse. I get the feeling that he was the one who said no when this isn't working. Or he said, no, if I'm not going to be in your life, and then I'm gone. While Gail goes to do all this famous stuff. And when he talks to Gail, he's not like, Gail, I miss you. Please take him back. He's like, no, I remember what you did. If I
may, I think a totally valid reading of this film is also that maybe they just didn't give it an honest try. That they just were never really a couple. And Dewey was just kind of like, what are we? Nothing.
I think Gail, like there was something there, but Gail got famous and swept up in that and left. She left Woodsboro, and Dewey didn't. Dewey was recovering. And then her book comes out, and then this is when he sees her again, and he's like, yeah, you kind of feel like you used me.
Oh,
which was her initial intent, but we know that there was something real there.
And then she even says some not so nice things about him in her book. He quotes the page about how she calls him like
page 42.
I love that so much.
He's like, look, I read your book because I wanted to support you, but at the same time, I see what you thought about me. So I'm like, no, I don't want this.
Yeah. The new cast in this is great. Like our returning cast is obviously still great, but like Mag brings up Sarah Michelle Gellar, shows up for a little bit. She's one of our random teens who gets murdered here, or no, not teens anymore. They're in college. The guy. Real quick, the fun thing about this movie is, despite this coming out less than a year from Scream 1, this takes place years after Scream 1, which is really cool. She's in college now, and I'm like, oh, that's fun.
There's a cameo in the first film and the second film that's I thought this guy would be a bigger role because it's the guy from Fringe,
Justin Johnson.
George, sorry, man.
We know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
he's in it. What is it?
Joshua Jackson.
He's in it for only that scene that Mag is talking about, which is his favorite scene. And I thought, I was like, oh, he's in this too. No, he's not. He's just in that scene.
Yeah, Dawson's Creek wasn't big yet, so he wasn't big yet.
Yeah. You should have waited a year.
But Sarah Michelle Gellar was surprised. I forgot that she was in this. I forgot about her boyfriend too.
Jerry O'Connell,
thank you.
Yeah, Timothy Oliphant.
I love
Mickey.
He is so weird. He's such a weird guy in this movie.
Portia de Rossi as the sister, the sorority sister.
Yeah, her. And,
oh my god, I forgot that was Portia de Rossi.
Her friend, also Rebecca Gayheart, who was also a big '90s lady. I forgot. All of these movies are just filled with young actors. Go ahead. No, please.
Well, I was just going to say, this film is bigger, but it's also funnier. There's a lot of really funny lines. I think Neve Campbell really settles into the Sydney character, who the Sydney character will be from now on in this film. This kind of fed upness of I've been through this already. You're not going to get away with this, blah, blah, blah. She's got that kind of confidence of I'm not going to be the final girl anymore. I'm going to be, and real quickly, my final thought on that is just that she also delivers some truly great lines. There's a line at the end of this film, which I wrote down. I was when it's revealed that this is Mrs. Loomis, the mother, and Gail's like, no, it can't be. I've seen pictures of you, and she's like, yeah, this is 60 pounds and a lot of work later. This is really funny.
No, I really love Sydney's arc through this film. It's one of the reasons why I almost put Scream 2 over the original so many times, is because I think Sid's arc is not only really good, but a rarity in a horror movie, where you are getting this person who was the final girl, and she is actively dealing with the idea of trying to live a normal life after that, and trying to move away from her trauma, and for a portion of the film kind of having a back and forth of facing it or running away from it, until she makes the decision, I'm going to face it. And I think that's really, really good. I love the idea, again, of like going back to this character who has been made into a victim for much of her life, and trying to move on from that, and then having to say, like, I will just actively not be that victim. Like, you won't get to play these games with me.
Neve Campbell is so good in that first movie, but it is a much more reserved role. Like, she is playing like the teenage final girl. She is like hardcore in this one. Neve Campbell is so good, in all these movies, but like this one, oh, she's a superstar. She's an actor. And again, she's really good in the first, but like, man, like she's bringing it in this one, and she brings it for the rest of the franchise too. And it is right. Like, it would have been such a bummer to have her just be in the same role. Like, oh, I'm still innocent, and all these bad things have happened to me. Like, no, girl, take charge. Hell yeah.
It's one of the reasons I love the entire like theater scene so much, which is her talking about dropping out of the play, and him being like part of the reason you're perfect for this is because you have faced this.
Yeah.
So go and face it and like
use it.
Her trying out, like, that's just a genius scene, this like the Greek faces and everything
spooky.
With the knives, and it's like, man, this is going to be really triggering for you, here we go. And again, another like kind of like the bathroom scene, there's no concrete information to tell us that absolutely Mickey or Mrs. Loomis were in that room.
That could have been a hallucination.
Now I will say, you can very clearly see, if you're watching the shot closely, where Ghostface steps away and moves another person into the spot. But I don't know entirely if that's just because you can see it, or you were supposed to see it. Because I do think that it's supposed to be like the bathroom scene, where you're supposed to be ambiguous. Not entirely sure, was Ghostface there, or was Ghostface just in her head?
Yeah.
And I really, really like that. I really like the idea of it just triggering her trauma, and that being part of what she has to overcome in this film, that sometimes Ghostface isn't even there, but she's seeing him. And I think that's really, really good.
Ben, did you there's no way you could have predicted Mrs. Loomis as the killer, but did you predict that Timothy Oliphant was the killer? Because he disappears pretty quickly into the movie.
He does, and when Timothy Oliphant reveals himself to be the killer, I was like, I should have saw this coming, because I completely forgot. I was too focused on the boyfriend. I was too focused on like even the camera guy. For a second, I was suspecting the camera guy, because he leaves, and then like he kills,
and then Randy dies.
Like Randy dies in the camera van. So I'm like, oh shit, is the camera guy? Is he a murderer?
Both films are
really in the movie.
Both films are really good at making a character leave a scene, and then killing a character, and then having the character return to the scene.
Yeah.
And it's not always the same character each time it happens, which I think is really, really cool. That guy is like quickly disavowed of being the killer, because he faints in a very convincing manner of just like, oh
yeah. I love that character, because he's like, okay, so I found out that the guy before, he got gutted, he got murdered.
Well, he didn't get gutted, he got his throat slit, and he's like, he ain't in the union anymore.
He's not in the union anymore. Such a good line. And then that dude bails. He bails, and that's so smart. And then
he comes back.
After everything's done, so he can get some credit for it.
Let's do this like the old days.
So smart. Oh my god, brilliant! I love that.
I had remembered. Sorry, I had remembered that the reporter that what's the real name of Mrs. Loomis? Not the real name.
First name.
What's your last name?
Loomis.
No. Sorry, I didn't mean
Debbie
real
Salt.
name. Debbie Salt. Thank you. I remembered Debbie Salt as the villain, as one of the killers, but I couldn't remember who the second killer was, and I was going back and forth between Jerry O'Connell and Timothy Oliphant. And I was like, it's definitely one of those two. So it's kind of fun when you don't see a movie for so long, you kind of only half remember it. And it still surprises you.
So I haven't real quick. I haven't seen Scream 2 in a while. And the only reason I remember Timothy Olyphant was a killer because I see the GIF of him doing the Frankenstein getting up and getting shot 20 times because that is a hilarious scene. He just like gets up. But yeah, I completely also forgot that Mrs. Loomis was the killer. So I see Debbie Salt and I'm like, this bitch, she's just trying to be the next Gail Weathers. And I'm like, oh my God, it's perfectly sane, reasonable Mrs. Loomis.
So what I was gonna say is Timothy Olyphant is so good as Mickey. What I love is the film does such a good job of making you feel like you are walking back down that Billy Loomis path with Gary O'Connell. Like you are going to go down that road again, and they're really trying to drive you in that direction. Like, oh man, it's really gonna suck. It sucks that this is the way Sid has to live her life, and so much so because Sid is convinced that that's also true. Sorry, hold on.
We got cats and doors, doors and cats.
What's going on?
The cats are just being super inconsistent tonight where they want to be inside, outside, inside, outside. Anyway, but we're trying to keep it shut to not make so much noise. Anyway, so you are constantly thinking, oh no, she's going to go through the boyfriend thing again. And then when you get the Mickey reveal and he says, it's okay, Derek, we got her. And it's like, oh no. And he's sitting there and you're like, I really believe that he's not it because he's trying to plead to Sid that it's not
He's
him.
lying.
It's such a brutal shot when he gets shot. It's honestly like really gnarly where he gets shot and he
like where
back
Jesus got stabbed.
She rushes over to try to cover the wound, and because she's like, oh my God, I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted it because he loved her so much.
Yeah, and again, being a sequel, like the kills are more brutal. I think the most brutal one is Dewey's.
No. The most brutal one is 100% the cop who's sitting on the front of the car and gets smashed in with the pipe going through his head.
Yeah.
Is definitely that
because
guy.
you see his head moving around afterwards.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's most emotional. That I will say.
Sure.
Again, even though Dewey survives.
That's the thing of like so Mag has a comment here, Ben, if you can bring that up. I can see why Randy had to be killed because he would have been a foil to the killer, or couldn't keep up character development than the rest. I don't disagree with that, but also it's a really effective kill because you do kind of wonder like, okay, well, we're in a sequel territory. Who's safe? Or how much are we franchising this? And Randy was a fan favorite character from the first film, and to kill him off almost halfway through the movie, at the end of what is essentially a really hilarious kind of Scooby-Doo riff of Gale and Dewey just tackling teenagers.
Yeah. I think Randy goes out sad. I think that's a pretty sad setup for his death. Mostly because I like Randy as a character, so I think that's harsh. And for a long time, that held me back on putting Scream 2 on the quality level film that I think it is, because I was like, they killed Randy and they did it stupid. And I'm more okay with it these days because I think it was the right call. I think that you needed to kill Randy because I think that that's the direction that character needed to go in. I think you were going to neuter some amount of development for the other characters if we were constantly having Randy talk about the rules. And Randy was the one who I felt like wasn't allowed to grow the least because he was still being lovelorn over Sid.
Yes.
And if the end game isn't him getting together with Sid, then he's got to move forward from that.
Yeah.
So I think killing him was the right call, and also doing it while the audience still loves him is the right call before he overstays his welcome.
Also, his little soul patch goatee thing was awful.
And just like you said, Brandon, it makes the other characters feel like we could lose any of them at any time.
We got stakes.
Yeah, I think that's right. But the other one I'm less okay with is that Elise Neal's Hallie goes out sad.
Her roommate.
And I feel bad for her.
She just gets jumped.
Hallie should have gone out better if she had to go out at all. I kind of wish at this point in my life, I'm like, she should have stuck around for at least one more movie. They should have kept her around.
Yeah.
It sucks. I think that's a shitty death. I think that's a shitty setup. I like the action scene of the car stuff and the tension of them getting out of the car scene.
That's a great scene.
But her just like, it's good that Sid decides that, I want to face this. I want to stop running. But like just having her stand over there by the thing. And it's like somehow Ghostface got around to that corner.
All the way around.
And then pops out and gets her. And I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah.
She was the one who said to run. Like, find a different moment to kill her. She went out too sad. I think she doesn't get a lot of lip service, but I think she's an important, like, grounded friend for Sid. That it's worthwhile to have her there.
A good supporting friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's really, that's the only kill where I was kind of like, how'd Ghostface do that? Because it's just Timothy Oliphant at that moment, and where it's implied to be that one because he's beaten up already when he takes off the mask.
Right.
So if it's just him, you don't have the excuse of, well, the other killer was there and that's how he got around so quickly.
I'm trying to track in my brain how they would have missed him, and I'm like, there's just no way. There's no way he could have got over there.
Right, especially because, like, the thing is, like, sure, Sydney's facing away from the car, but Hallie isn't.
Yeah.
And, like, you can do suspension of disbelief, but it's to the degree where I'm like,
it's the one
should
where
Hallie
like,
maybe not have died here? Yeah, the answer is yes.
Or just make it way more creative.
Yeah.
But
because the tension of that scene is so wonderful, and you don't need to kill someone in that scene because it's just that tension there. And sorry, Ben's stretching was distracting. When I lost my point.
No, it's that first time I ever watched that scene with the car and everything. That is a true edge of your seat moment where I was just like the whole time like, oh God.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best tension building scenes in the franchise.
It really is. It's a super good one. They did a really great job with that scene, especially like the thoughtfulness of the pipe going through just enough so that they can peel the back grate to get out of the cop car. The fact that it was a cop car and like it all organically fit in very well. I'm like, this was so well crafted. This is such an uncomfortable moment.
Going back to the Dewey kill, but before that, like hiding in what looks like almost like a maze of soundproof rooms, like going in between like corridors. Brilliant. And then she hides behind the glass and like Ghostface is stalking around,
so she can't hear Dewey.
Yeah, and I think again that is a incredible like kill scene because Gail is like Courtney Cox is like delivering a great performance, like seeing this guy get killed again, basically. The new love of her life again getting stabbed. It's brutal in the way that's like he gets up. He always cleans his blade. I love that. I don't know why. It's just like so sadistic. Like, hey, the next one.
One of the things that makes Ghostface such a fun killer is that there, is what Spark said. He's fallible. He can be tripped up. He can be found out. He can be knocked unconscious, and it makes a lot of tension scenes, but also a lot of comedy scenes. I think one of the funniest things in this movie is that he gets caught playing the tape when Gail and Dewey are about to have sex in the thing, and they see the tape and they look up, and then he's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I think that's very funny.
Yeah, just like Ghostface, like no matter who it is, they're really clumsy and they love to murder. So like murder is their number one priority. So they become clumsy because they're so locked in on murder. And they will just run into anything. The amount of times Ghostface is like trapped behind a door and he's doing the arm thing. You've done it like 6 times, my guy. You're not getting in. It's a good shot. I love it.
And another thing I love about the Ghostface killers is that you get to Sydney confronting them, the reveal at the end, and Sydney always makes them feel so pathetic. And like you're just nothing to me. Like you think you did all this and it's impressive and it isn't. I'm not afraid of you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean shit. And I can't wait to talk about next week because like one of my favorite things about Scream 3 is the tear down of the killer in that one because holy shit, then you were in for it. I'm so excited.
I forgot. I wonder how I felt when I saw it when I was young, because I don't remember how I felt, but now that I'm where I am, I love Mrs. Loomis as a killer because that is like on paper it's so stupid. It is so dumb. This random throwaway character that's mentioned in the first movie. I just love how like her motive, it's rational to want revenge on the girl who killed your son. That's totally normal. I'm totally normal. I love that idea.
And she commits.
She's so good.
She's so committed that it's like this works because she is absolutely committed to her wide-eyed bullshit.
Yeah. And then picking up little Mickey, like the perfect little protege, wants to make the ultimate sequel. I love it. Yeah, this like
and the the teardown of Mickey from Mrs. Loomis when she kills him, and she's just like, "Did you buy that? Did you buy that court case thing for a second? Like, isn't that so stupid?"
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, his idea.
Mickey was quite a find, and he's like, yeah, just need a little funding, a little backing, serial killer in the making.
Oh yeah, she's like, yeah, on the internet, there's only like 76. Finding him on the internet was easy peasy. Like I love it.
Going back to the beginning, because we did breeze past it a little bit. Jada Pinkett Smith and Omar Epps' deaths are also pretty impressive.
Oh my god, I forgot that.
Pretty jarring and crazy to see. Specifically, something I love is that once you know Timothy Olyphant is Mickey, if you go back and you watch the bathroom scene with Omar Epps, you listen closely, you can tell they recorded Timothy Olyphant saying these weird word salad that gets Omar Epps the lead in, and he's using this weird high-pitched voice, but it's very clearly Oliphant's actual voice, and I'm like, this is so goofy.
I forgot how he puts all of his clothes on to sit back down with her.
Yeah.
I thought at first, I didn't realize, I thought she wasn't going to discover blood. It was that he was a white man. And I thought she was going to hold his hand and wait a minute. The fact that the audience was going crazy and everyone is fake murdering their friends. So when she's actually getting murdered, no one pays attention.
Right.
And her
going up onto the screen.
Her guttural scream. It's so good.
And then holding on her, laying there for a moment before we get the Scream 2 title.
There's a moment where she gets stabbed in the aisle and blood splatters onto the guy next to him, next to her, and he goes, and you just see the guy like, what
happened? Yeah,
yeah. Great again, hiring famous people to be in the opening of your movie to trick them. I really love it. It's always fun.
I also, this is the invention of the Stab franchise, which will be a remaining thing throughout the rest of the films. Very smart. Now they can meta comment on their own meta comment bullshit films of their own murders that they created that's happening in tandem and at the same time, and it really works for me. I think it's really funny.
Yeah. I'm so glad we're doing this. I forgot how good these movies are, and if again, it's been a while since I've seen Scream 3, but if that is the quote unquote worst one, and then I have 2 more great movies after that, then this is an incredible franchise.
Yeah.
This is an incredible franchise.
And Scream 3's the weakest for sure, but I don't think it's bad.
Yeah. It's
just this is not on the level of the others. It just isn't.
But it's still trying to be as creative and inventive and meta as the other ones. Yeah. So it's not like it's being lazy. It's not as good as the other ones.
We'll get into that next week for sure. I'm excited about it. There are some really interesting needle drops in this movie. I think specifically of when we kill Sarah Michelle Gellar, we just focus on her dead body down there, and then it's just playing teen party rock as he cleans the knife, and we move on to the next scene.
The thing that I really like about Ghostface as a killer once again is when we see him in the background being sneaky, it never looks menacing. It always looks silly.
Yeah.
When he comes in through the door and he's just
yes.
And it's just
it never looks smooth.
They're not good at their jobs.
Then there's in the first one there's the zoom in into the bushes and it's the Bigfoot moment.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Again, just like the first one, they do a great job in this film of I think Mickey and Mrs. Loomis are both consistent with who they reveal themselves to be at the end. They are those characters in the scenes that lead up to it. You can see the nuggets when you go back. You can see the things that they're doing that are leading into it. Specifically, I really love that these 2 moments are back to back. What happens is that Mrs. Loomis is trying to throw suspicion onto Dewey in front of the other reporters, and it immediately cuts to Mickey sitting down at a table with Derek and trying to throw suspicion onto Randy. And so they're both tag teaming, getting both of them under the bus at the same time. And I was like, man, that's really smart when you know they're the killers. That it's 1-2 punch right there. They're both throwing their old friends under the bus.
Work in multiple angles, to cover their bases.
Wasn't there a moment where she tries to throw speculation onto Cotton? Where she's talking to Gail and is like, well, it just seems to me.
No, that's when she's talking about Dewey, and she says, well, it just seems to me if the killer is mimicking the murders from Woodsboro, then the killer might be from Woodsboro.
We haven't even talked about
Cotton Weary is the thing that Gail gets onto. Yeah, Liev Schreiber comes back as Cotton Weary. Gail pulls her really bullshit move to thrust Sydney into a meeting again with him, which
Diane
leads to her getting
Sawyer.
punched in the face.
One
again.
of the scene between Cotton and Sydney when he's trying to convince her to do the Diane Sawyer
library
thing, and he's like slowly getting more and more personal, and he's like doing like the the typical like aggressive male things you do, and I'm like, this is one of the most uncomfortable scenes I've ever seen. The way he touches her and he's like doing like his like fake laugh, I'm like, this is so menacing, but this man is innocent, but he's not acting like it.
He has this kind of thing about him, this chip on his shoulder, like I'm owed this fame because of what you did to me. And he's got, and like you think of, okay, the first time we see him, we're like, oh, okay, Gail's kind of stringing him around and he really just wants to move past this. And then very quickly throughout the movie, you realize he's not the killer, but the only thing he cares about is his fame, and he does not want to lose that.
And it's the only way you can get famous is to continue to talk about the thing you didn't do.
Yeah.
Like, is a weird way to get famous. Like, oh, I didn't kill someone here, I should be famous for it. And like that is how people chase fame. That does happen. It's just really gross. And like, luckily, like not luckily, but like Cotton is such an interesting character. Like by the end, like he is redeemed in a way. Like he is a good person who just, you need to chill out a little bit, bro. Don't be so aggressive. Yeah.
All right.
Let me see here. Luke Wilson, in particular, as Billy Loomis, is hilarious.
That was incredible. Tori Spelling, I love it. That hair.
I really, really love when Derek knows that Sydney's pushing him away, and he breaks into the "I think I love you," and Jerry O'Connell can do just the right amount of "I'm not very good at singing, but it's just passable enough."
Yeah.
To make it charming and sweet, and it's a nice moment with the Greek letters and everything. I think that's really cute.
Man, the late 90s were rife with this,
which again, really endears you to him, and it's at that scene that you're like, I really, really hope you're not the killer.
Yeah, he's really.
And it makes the ending all the more sad, and like poor Derek. Oh my god.
That kind of goes to the predictability and the unpredictability of the Scream franchise, is that he's playing. At this point they're actively playing with what your expectations for the sequel are going to be through Randy, and a lot of time where he's like, it could be the boyfriend again, trying to recreate for the first movie, and so like you're playing with the idea. Wes Craven is playing with the idea that the audience has this in their mind already. They are slasher film fans. You're going to see this, and you're having this moment where you're like, well, it could be Jerry O'Connell. It could be he could be the killer in this one. Is that the predictable way to go? But it's so predictable, it could be unpredictable.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's like the whole thing of like, what's better than having a motive? Not having any motive at all. That's so Next Generation, isn't it? I'm like, these killers are so stupid. I love every single one of them.
What's the line? It's the millennium. You don't need a motive.
Yeah. Motives are overrated.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
Circumstantial motives are circumstantial. I really like Dewey trying to look after Sid. That's why he shows up, and mentioning that if there is a new killer, then they're probably already in her life.
Yep.
I think that's really sharp. I like the way they introduce that, so you can start looking at your suspects immediately.
Yeah.
The repetition thing of the names of the victims was a fun little goofy touch.
Oh yeah, they're killing the same names. Yeah.
Or like attributed names, like Stephen was in the last name instead of the first name, but it was still there. In the order that they were killed in the first one. I thought that was fun. But then after that, it goes away because they start just like having to kill people. And I really
they even say killing Randy wasn't in the plan. He just pissed off Mrs. Loomis. By making fun of Billy.
He insulted my boy, and I got a little knife happy. She's so good. She's so good at being committed to exactly the killer that she is. I really love the scene where Randy and Dewey are running down the list of suspects, and like who could make sense. And Dewey's like, so you think it's this? And it's like, well, hold on there. And then just throwing them out. It's like, well, if you're a suspect, I'm a suspect. Okay, let's move on.
Chemistry is great between everybody.
It really is. They're a really fun cast to watch. And then I love Sid turning the set against Mrs. Loomis at the end. Before Cotton shows up and helps her save the day.
Oh yeah.
I really love that. I love all the set pieces dropping down. And then just because I got to highlight, because I think it's just a really incredible stunt every time. The part where Gail gets shot on accident by Timothy Oliphant and flips down into the pit and flips the thing she's standing on with her, so that there's no more bridge and Cotton has to hop over. And also so Mrs. Loomis can't run out of the stage when she's trapped. that stunt is amazing every time I see it, where like the thing like flips with her. I'm like, what an incredible stunt. It looks so good.
What did she say like when she's trying to get out of there? I can't remember, but she's like,
Like, are you okay? It's like, no, I've been shot.
yeah, I've been shot.
There's this really interesting thing that happens in the Scream movies and especially in this one, when both Gale and Dewey are supposedly dead. And you have this thing, you have this relief that they're not, and it doesn't feel like you've been faked out. It feels like, oh, thank goodness, I was not ready to say goodbye to these characters. It would be at this point, I think if Randy had a similar fake out, people would be relieved to see Randy alive. But Gale and Dewey having both these fake outs doesn't feel cheap. It feels like a gift to the audience. Like, actually, these characters you like are still alive.
Right.
Yeah. Again, like everybody, like the stakes are real for all the characters, and like you want all of your heroes to survive, but like nobody is safe except it.
Mag has a comment about Stu's interest in the franchise. It's the only time Stu gets referenced in the franchise being brain dead or in a comatose state that could be used in future Scream movies.
They say that? I don't remember that.
I didn't catch that. I didn't clock that.
catch it.
Meg, I don't know.
I believe you.
That.
I believe you because like that is a big prevailing theory right now that Screevy it is the mastermind Matthew Lillard 20 years later. Either that or it's a whole theater troupe. This
isn't going to give away 3. But there was he was contracted to return in 3, but they cut him out completely.
Yeah,
right.
he was going to be in 3, and they just
and he's in this movie at the party, and you can find him if you want to.
Yeah, I heard about that. He's in the party.
Yes. Yeah,
it's twin brother Drew.
All right.
Yeah, I just think it's really, really good. I think it's a real good one.
Absolutely.
I like it a lot. I also rate this one a 10.
Hell yeah. I rate it a 9. I think it's very, 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 very good. Just obviously just not as tight. It's a sequel trying to do more, and it still does everything pretty great. 9.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a 9 as well.
8.5.
These are all good scores.
Solid. Ben,
good movies.
Ben, this was your first foray into Scream 2. You didn't get to say a lot about Scream 2 at the end there. You want any last thoughts on it?
Not really. I pretty much gave most of the thoughts I had. This is my first time seeing it, so like the more I'll see it, or if the more I do watch it, I might have more to say about it. I know I had a few tiny little criticisms about Scream 2 and also even Scream 1, like how Henry Winkler, Sydney's cop, when Sydney's being interviewed and he pulls her head. I was like, "Hey, are you doing okay? Okay?" And the cops are like, nothing. Excuse me, nothing becomes of that.
He's dying.
Bloody hell.
Ben, are you okay? Can you hear me?
Get some water. Real quick, while Ben's drinking some water, Mag did point out that they give Scream 2 a 9.5. They also said earlier Scream is a 9 or a 9.5.
2 great movies.
I really do wish-wash on, like, is Scream 2 truly better to me than Scream 1? I think they're both really great.
I think it's like,
I'm so happy with
it. It honestly like depends on what you look. Are you looking for a little more like bombastic murder movie? Then 2 is your bet. You know, they're both great.
2 things real quickly. Ben,
yes,
are you excited to continue?
Sure. I like to see how
excited.
I like to see how these movies keep going forward. I was told that 3 is a bit of a dip, but 4, 5, and 4 and 5 are really good, decent slasher films.
I have seen Scream 3 times, and I have only remembered one of those times.
I've seen it once, so I'm excited because I saw it once, like as a teenager. I'm like, I don't need to see this ever again.
This is gonna be a wild week.
It's been
I'm so excited.
15 years, probably. I'm 31 now, so 16 years probably.
Do you remember who the killer is?
Once I see everyone in the movie, I probably will, but right now I can't tell you.
Sparks.
Yeah.
You might need to make that a perfect 10 video soon.
The perfect 10?
Yeah, you know, if we all give something a 10, we play a video being like, hey, perfect 10s.
Yeah, well, Scream didn't get it quite yet, so.
No. Well, I'm just saying, we might want to be prepared.
Sure.
Cool. Although I was the only one to put 5 Cream on their top 15s.
It's true.
Oh, no.
It's still a good movie.
Yeah, okay. I love 5 Cream.
Me too. I love 5 of them.
I really like 5 Cream. Can't wait. Okay, so
This is a great time. I'm so pleased to be doing this. I'm so pleased to have been in the room with Ben because Ben joined us for these two. I'm so pleased to have seen Ben experience these. His reaction when Mrs. Loomis showed up was just chef's kiss wonderful. I was so happy.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that we're doing this. So the episode is running late because we had the DC slate to talk about. I highly doubt the Scream 3 and 4 episode will go on nearly as long, but you are able to listen to this episode separately should you want to. Should we go into our book club?